Hello and welcome to our second day of festival here. We are doing the design workshop today as our second one. With me, we have Sabine from Lookout Games.
Hello, everybody.
Global Marketing Manager. And from left to right, the way I am sitting, is Zachary Smith, the the marketing and social media manager for Garphill Games. Hey, Zach.
Hey, everyone.
And Jonny Pac, Cantin. He's the lead developer for Fantasia games. He is a game designer and all in all, a cool dude. Hey, Jonny.
Hey.
Welcome. We are going to try to discuss today a bit about designing for publishing, not designing for your cupboard. Or we're going to talk a bit about what do you do when you design? How can you create a product that can be approachable when you go to publishers and talk to them? Of course, we're not going to give the correct pathway. We're not going to give, but we can talk largely about what happens as a designer, from a designer standpoint, and from a publisher standpoint when it comes to receiving games or showing games. So I'm going to start with the designers first, then we'll go to the marketing team. When you start designing, what do you think of, or what's the process? Do you go, this idea might work with the publisher, or I just want to start design a thing which I just love and I don't think I'm going to want to publish? Zach, we'll start with you.
I think, first of all, if you're going to design a game, you have to be kind of interested in what you're doing and what you're designing. But at the same time, you have to, if you're wanting that game to be published, obviously, and I think most people who are designing are interested in getting a game published, you also have to think about the marketability of that game. So, first of all, you might be designing something in a certain setting or theme, and that's fine. But when you present to a publisher, they might decide to change that. So at the end of the day, I don't think the setting of the theme is necessarily super important. Although if you've got something really good and really unique, that could be a selling point as well to the publisher. But yeah, I think it's important to have those kind of considerations about what kind of makes your game unique, what's going to make it stand out, because there's a lot of games coming out these days. There's hundreds of them coming out every year. So what's kind of the special twist that your game is bringing? Because if you just make something that is similar to another 300 games, I mean, that publisher has maybe already seen another 20 games like that before yours. So you kind of need to be very good at having that kind of selling point, that the thing that's going to make it stick out amongst the crowd.
Jonny?
I have mixed feelings back and forth on that, because I've pitched games to publishers who want to retheme them, for instance, or want to change something I think is vital to the design. And I think if I was a newer designer, I would just say having a game published is better than having no games published, and I would let them do what they do with it. But it's possible that even a good publisher might actually know their market, but they might not know your goals as a designer. And if those things don't really line up, I think it could cause some dissonance down the road. And so you should really look at how married to the theme and setting you are, and also trying to find the right publisher for that if you're really fixated on it. Whereas if you came up with like an abstract something, or something maybe like Rainer Knizitz's games that often get rethemed, those things are more suitable to that, because it's more about the underpinnings of the math or something like that. Whereas a lot of the work I've been doing in recent years is informed from the ground up from I won't go past a certain point until I actually have a theme to inform the micromechanics of that. I might come up with a core system. I'll stop there. I find a theme that I like, and that will lead to the supporting systems of that. And I actually find that it's kind of a good test for a designer to think, if somebody were to take the theme out of your game and put something no theme or a different theme on it, would it still make sense? And if the answer is no, then that means you're actually doing a good job being a thematic designer. Otherwise, you're just masking your math. And so I think just being honest about yourself, is your game rethemable? And would it make sense in two main different markets, in my opinion, is retail, where a lot of times publishers will want to strip it down to the cheapest components possible and smallest box, and the Kickstarter market, where they will take a small game and see how much stuff they can make out of metal and put it in the biggest box full of plastic Tupperware possible. And they just look as potential, what can we actually bloat out on this thing? And as a designer, you need to kind of maybe say this game could go either way, or I think this game is only good for crowdfunding, or this was intended to be really small for retail. Like if somebody comes up with an 18 card game and wants to publish that with Button Shy, well, that's the right publisher for 18 card games. But if you brought that to, like, I don't know, say Fantasia, who I work for, we don't do 18 card games. We don't have an audience for that. And we might be able to move some at Essen, but we're not proven to be able to move small wallet-sized games like that. We make big, chunky, big box games most of the time. So I think it's just kind of looking at the overall scope and realizing that there's not just designers and publishers, there's lots of different designers and there's lots of different publishers, and they each have their own expertise and market share.
Yeah.
Sorry, you wanted to add something?
Sorry, no, I just wanted to add, that's a really good point, I think, that Jonny added on there, that lots of different publishers have different markets. So also looking around and kind of understanding what sorts of games publishers make, because I know I've heard from publishers who get emails from people being like, look at my game, and they have no idea what their publisher makes. And for the publisher, that's really annoying. Whereas if someone's like, look, I love your games, I've played these games, and I've designed something that's kind of in that would fit in with what you guys are selling, that publisher's a lot more likely to take a look at that game, to even play it and see if it could fit in. So be aware of the publishers that are out there and what sorts of games they're making.
Yeah, like as a designer, do your research on who you're pitching to, because it's much easier to strike up a conversation at a convention with a publisher whose games that you've played and you admire than saying, oh, it looks like you make cool stuff. Hey, do you want to look at my design? The connection's not really there, where, for instance, I played Garphill games. I played lots of Lookout games. I think if I were to talk to either of you about that, I would immediately start with things that I'm familiar with, like, oh, I've worked with Micho and many times on artwork, and Clemens Franz is a wonderful graphic designer / illustrator. He's one of my favorites, and it's so cool that he's in-house at that publisher, and trying to make a connection based on mutuals, or at least admiration, just be a fanboy of that thing, and then introduce why your potential product would be a good fit for their line. Or just be honest and be like, I love your stuff. I don't think I have anything for you. You're welcome to look at it, but I'm not going to push really hard, because maybe you make something that's outside their typical wheelhouse. Or you can even ask, are you looking to try something completely different? Because I know your catalog has X, Y, and Z, but this is something different. And maybe you don't know. Maybe a company we're trying to get into this other market altogether. We're going to start an imprint or whatever else. And yes, we do suddenly want party games when there's 0 party games in their collection otherwise, right? You just don't know all the inside discussions that are going on either.
So, Sabine, we're going to your point of view. Now you have Lookout has a bigger editorial team. We are talking on the earlier workshop. How many teams are in Lookout? How many people are in the editorial team for a game?
It's still only 3 people in the whole editorial team, and they're all checking all the submissions, of course, and we get a lot of those. And then we do have project managers for the projects and one assigned editor responsible for this particular game.
I see. And how many per year, let's say, how many requests do you get to get my game published?
In overall, we get about 30 to 40 submissions per month.
Okay.
And I have to agree on the gentleman that maybe 80% of them didn't do their research, so they keep our editorial team busy in checking out what this person is pitching or tries to pitch, and they're usually not a fit with Lookout Games. So yes, please do your research, check out the publishing houses, check out the games you like that might be similar to your game, because the first question, if you're approaching an editor, is what makes a game stand out and why do you think it would be a fit with us? And if you find a connection, this might be doable and we might pull this off. But if there is no connection at all, why should we consider publishing your game? Because it doesn't fit our portfolio. If it's something outstanding, yes, go to any publisher who's known for doing outstanding, out-of-the-box production too. But make your research. It makes it, for both of us, worthwhile.
Yeah, because in the end, I think it is about the connection that you're creating over time, because they might not like or it might not fit perfectly with them for now, but who knows, for a future game things might happen. You guys, both of you have published designs. I will ask you, let's not go through the whole history. What do you have there, Jonny? A small cat?
It's Biscuit.
He wants to talk about design also.
He does.
He has a paw in it.
I'll shield you from that part. Cats, you know.
So, Zach, you have a one published bigger design, which is better known, let's say, KS Order with Garphill. How hard was it for you to pitch this game for them, because they were not necessarily into those types of games?
Yeah, so I've got one published game. I've got two games that will be published, but I have not been announced yet, so I can't say much about them. All with Garphill. So first of all, I was co-designing with Sam McDonald, SJ McDonald, the co-author of Shem on many games. And so first of all, it was an easy in access for me, where a lot of people don't have that kind of opportunity. But even though it was me and Sam working on this game together, we were working on it without Shem knowing about it, because we knew it wasn't really a game that necessarily fit in with Garphill's line up until now. And we wanted to make sure, and this is another thing, make sure you get the game to a really good state before you try and show it to publishers. Do a lot of playtesting and make sure that you're quite happy with it. As a general rule, especially if you're approaching a publisher for the first time and you're not an established designer, you want to have something that's good. And I would say also do a lot of testing by yourself before you show it to your friends, so that your friends will be happy to keep on playtesting because the game is already fun. So those are just two quick tips. So yeah, I had a bit of an easy in, and we showed it to Shem, and surprisingly he agreed to publish it, and he kind of said, "Oh, this isn't the usual game I enjoy, but I can see that it's a good game." And so he was able to have that kind of objectivity. It's this isn't my style of game personally, but I see that it's a good game. And also there was a moment when Garphill was looking to branch out, because obviously most people know Garphill games for the trilogies with the Mikko's artwork, and now we've got this line, the Micho. Yes, sorry, the Micho.
I'm gonna go nuts.
And
the Micho.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
And then now we've got this other line that's going pretty well, which is the Ancient Anthology with all these kind of ancient history games. So at that point, Garphill was trying to branch out, and it was trying with the ancient history games and these sci-fi games. And unfortunately, the Circadians games, for various reasons, haven't been a big hit with with our fans, and they just haven't sold as much. Like, people have loved the games who got them, but they just haven't moved as many copies. And obviously, as a publisher, that's what you're looking at. Is you're looking to move copies at the end of the day. We try and create great games, but you can't keep on investing in stuff that isn't giving you a return. So I'll tell a follow-on story. Because of that, me and Sam were working on a kind of like a follow-up game in a similar genre, but changing a lot of things. Circadian is a very asymmetric kind of dudes on a map game. And this next game, which will be published, is in the similar genre, but it's not asymmetric. It's got a lot of emergent asymmetry. And we were like, okay, Chaos Order didn't sell a lot of copies, so Shem's probably not going to publish this. So we need to start thinking about publishers that we can go to, etc. And we'd also shown it to him one time, and he didn't really he didn't have any good feedback. And so we were kind of doing that process of going like, which publishers could publish this game? And then Shem ended up playing it again in a much more developed stage where we had improved it a lot and did decide to publish it. So we were very lucky there where we didn't have to go through the pitching process. And we just ended up getting to get it on board in the Garphill catalogue.
One follow-up question, and then we'll go to Jonny. How long did it take, and how many playtests until Shem finally liked it?
Oof. So it was probably about a year design, and I wasn't working for Garphill at that point, so it was kind of like meeting up with Sam once a week to play it at least, and sometimes twice a week over a year. And probably towards the end of that year, Shem decided to publish it. He might have played, I think he played it about halfway through the year, and that's when he didn't like it. Maybe another 6 months, and we had got it to a point where he was convinced. So yeah.
Once in total, you're talking about 50, 60 playtests of a bigger game.
Yeah. So this one's not as long. So Chaos Order was a 2 to 4 hour game. This game finishes within 2 hours, so it was a little bit more doable. And if we were playing 2-player, maybe you could get 2 tests in a night. But also to explain, I'm now living in New Zealand, but I was living in Italy, so we would be meeting up my evenings and Sam's mornings often. So we couldn't just play all day. We had, a few hours to do a test.
I see. And after it decided to be published, you started to do more playtests and do more things of.
Well, really, we stopped because it was at a pretty good stage, and it's more as the production has started to, like, art has been done and stuff like that, and the components and everything. That's when we started playtesting it again, because obviously you get a game to a finished state, but then as it goes into production, as you start to figure out how the components are going to be, how the iconography, how the graphic design is going to be, that's when you do more testing to make sure that then the product actually makes sense, the game makes sense, and that product design. And then things like we had to add some Kickstarter promos, so making sure that those promos work, and we had some late ideas of adding some other things to make it easier, some alternate, like an alternate version of the game that if players wanted a simpler combat system, so we've got that in there as well. So just some kind of extras to put in there. So it's more those things that we tested, which are the icing on top, and just making sure the product design is good.
Okay, yeah. Jonny, going to you. So how hard was it for you?
Which part? All of it. I don't know.
Getting your first game published. for your first steps.
That's like ancient history now. So it's my first game was signed in 2012. So I had dark hair and my eyes weren't all sunken in, and I was much more chipper. It was a different me. So I've grown a lot as a designer, and I don't know if my experiences in 2012 are really super relevant right now, because that was really like, even Kickstarter wasn't a well-known thing at the time. It was just starting to come out. Like, this is pre-Exploding Kittens era, right? So it was there, but it was just not, it didn't have the effect on the industry and people's expectations of products as it does today. So I think there's definitely kind of a chapter of my career that almost isn't really relevant anymore. And then it's really kind of the second wave of my work, I think, that does make more sense to look at, which would be kind of when I like broke into the industry more, which is more like around 2019. So I was doing a lot of pitching in 2017 and 18 in order to make those games that came out in 2019. And I had 3 games come out of Essen 2019 at once. I kind of came out of nowhere and got the attention of a few prominent reviewers, which helped kind of like make me the name. All 3 of those games happened to be Western games, so that's where I got the kind of stereotype of wearing Clint Eastwood stuff and all that, because I'd go to the shows promoting those games and I'd wear like Western wear, and under some weird circumstances my cowboy boots got soaked in transit, and the only thing I had to wear was these big orange foam Croc shoes, and I ended up doing demos in full cowboy stuff with these Crocs on, and it became known as the Cowboy and Crocs after that, and the rest is history. Now most of my Facebook is Croc shoes and game stuff, so it's a thing. But my tactic at that point, a resume or catalog of games that publishers could pick from when I'd go to a meeting. So I made some 2-player game, and a lighter weight game, a giant heavy Euro game. I kind of made everything that I felt I was capable of making. I didn't have like a party game or something in there, because I don't do party games. But so when I go to the pitch meetings, I would ask, I'd do my homework first and know who I was talking to, but then I'd further ask, what type of game and what weight and player count are you looking for? And I would show them the sell sheets or the basic overview of these things. And if we had a limited amount of time, I would show them the one that caught their interest. And it was surprising which publishers would be completely dismissive of one thing and suddenly see something else and, treat it like catnip or something. But that seemed to work a little bit better versus putting all my eggs in one basket and being like, oh, I made this game, I need to pitch this game to everybody I meet. It wasn't really the case. And even kind of became, when I'd see these people at later conventions and things, they'd kind of say, hey, what do you got in your bag? Do you have anything new in there you want to show me? And so it kind of became known that I didn't just have a game, I was making stuff, and I was kind of churning out prototypes at the time. And that helped, and I think it also showed a little bit of versatility as a designer. Instead of like, if I just had a 4X space game or something, they think, oh, that guy just makes 4X space games. They wouldn't maybe know that I had other stuff that I do. Long story short, I still got typecast as a cowboy game designer. But, I went on to make a lot of games that are not cowboy themed after that. So yeah, I kind of made a nice business card, sell sheets, a little website landing page, and then I had like a bag with a whole, bunch of slim boxes with different prototypes in there. So when I actually land a meeting, I would let the publishers kind of pick what they wanted to look at based on the sell sheets.
When you made those prototypes, how deep were you in making that prototype? I mean, how well made?
How much did they invest?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is, again, kind of before everybody has a 3D printer, which is a new game changer. I go to Protospiel events now, and everybody's made everything out of 3D stuff, and there's already replicas of what would be a game trays insert with a lid, and everything has been sculpted, and it's a different landscape. But at the time, I would source generic parts if they were close to what I needed from Spiel material or Print and Play or Game Crafter. Then I would also print things onto pretty sturdy cardboard. I'd sleeve the cards and make sure everything looked pretty good using clip art, whatever else, and make sure it was approximately the size of the things I imagined for usability purposes. But I think the landscape's changed, and it's probably harder to pitch like one of my good prototypes of 2017 is just a lot of cardboard compared to what I'm seeing now being pitched, which is like people are embedding magnets in their board because they're, like, look, this is a magnetic board and it's double ply with 3D parts. It's like, wow. And you know what? Those games are getting signed because they have a lot of curb appeal versus index cards with scribbles on it, which sometimes used to work.
I see. How does Zach, you wanted to say something about this before we go to the publisher? No? Okay. How does the publisher sees this? There are a lot of new designers. There are a lot of. It's of course if the designer of Great Western Trail, Alexander Pfister, if he comes to you with a game, you're going to have your ears open, more or less. But if a newer designer comes towards Lookout, and always a newer designer is, I hope they like it, I hope it's good, I hope it's... how are you able to deal with this relationship of, we should let him down. If we let him down, we should let him down in a certain way, but he might have something good, and let's see. How does this relationship work with a newer designer?
We keep our mind open despite being a well-known designer or a new designer, because the main thing for a publishing house is this a great game? Does this fit our portfolio? Is this appealing? Do we see a chance in publishing this and making money out of it, of course, and making players happy? So even renowned designer present you with designs and say, oh yeah, that's an idea. And a new designer can present you and push you off your socks with his idea and his pitch. In the end, it is down to the basic idea. Is this a copy, another copy of a famous board game, another redo of something, or is this design something special, fit for the publisher and for the portfolio of the publisher? If it's appealing, yes, of course, if you're coming with a wonderful printed, shiny prototype, this might mask and collect the first imprint with the other side. But if you're getting into the sales sheet and there is no information given, the shiniest prototype won't perform well. And if it's just scribbles on a paper, but your pitch is good and you can sell the basic idea of your game, the illustration is not so important than the idea. Mechanism tops the theme. Yes, if you have combined your kind of idea with a good theme, this might be a fit. But please be aware, the publisher might see it different, because we have submissions to very similar themes from time to time, and you might be the 7th or 8th in the line with the similar idea and a similar theme, a theme that's, stressed out, maybe. And the publishing house might have another game already in the development process with a similar team or the same theme.
That's a big one.
And this is a no-go, so they won't do 2 games in a row with the same theme, even if they like your idea. So keep the design of your board game as simple as possible and make it as shiny as you can afford in time and money investment. Because it's not coming up with shiny Kickstarter stuff, it's coming up with your idea. And it's your pitch that matters. It's your idea. And if your idea is unique and your approach, and it's a fit for the publisher, you might establish a relationship. And if it's not this first game, you have one foot in because they liked your idea. And they might be able and willing to work with you on future ideas. And they might come with suggestions from the very experienced editorial team to alter your theme or to alter your mechanism. But yes, you can approach us with a very shiny, wonderful, ready printed prototype, and we still might think, it's not a fit with us, and I don't see the theme, and I don't see the reason why, and you invested all your time in the wrong part of your pitch. Don't get me wrong. If you come with a perfect idea and it looks wonderful, we might get it. And we still might decide this is not the design, this is not the theme, and make it something completely different. So just try to elevate the effort you're putting in your design and the possible outcome. If you're thinking about the theme properly, the theme fits, like, for example, this forest shuffle. This mechanism would have worked with something else entirely. But Kosh came with the idea to put it in the nature line and to combine species and adding species to the forest. And we were thinking about, oh yes, well, another nature theme. In the line of nature themes on the market and more pushing on. So should we really do this? And when we do this, should we do it really fast? But the mechanism was so perfect, and we said, yes, we have to pull this off. We do this, and we find the proper registration for it, and we do this, despite being so many nature-themed games on the market already, and more pushing on. But this is a one-time fit for the designer and for the publishing house. Usually you have a lot of alterations, and your first pitch you're so proud of and you developed so well might not be a fit, and in the end it might be something completely different, even if the publishing house says, yeah, we take your idea, but they make it to something completely different. And this is another possibility you have to face, that it might turn out completely different. You might sell them your pitch, they might do and publish this, but it might be something completely different than the thing you invented in the first place.
And you have to go with it.
And you have to go with it, yeah.
If
and
you
there might be
want.
royalties or not in the end.
Zach, working with you, want it or not, you have to do marketing for a game. That's your job. So when somebody pitches a game to Garphill, do you have a team that looks at the and have more ideas, or do you have Shem who chooses, no, this one goes for us, and then you'll find a way to market it, to place it into the market?
Well, I think sometimes people think we're a bigger company than we are, so we're just four blokes in the office, you know.
But for you, still a team.
There's Shem, there's Sam McDonald, there's Sam Phillips, who's Shem's brother, who does our illustrations for the Ancient anthology, and I'm the latest new entrant to the team. So we're actually quite a small company, and so Shem, up until very recently, you know, he was a self-made man, and the fact that he launched the game on Kickstarter, it did okay. He launched another game and it got nominated for the Kinderspiel, and that kind of really launched his career, because, you know, he was just the guy from New Zealand who liked to make games. And so up until recently, Shem has been really doing everything. And so now he's been building his team and trying to, you know, focus on the things that he enjoys the most. And so at the moment, though, in terms of deciding whether a game is going to be made by Garphill or not, it's 100% on Shem. He might talk to Sam, he might talk to me, but generally, though, we're not. I don't think we really take many pitches, though. Sometimes people may pitch games to Shem, but the thing is, we're 4 people, and 3 of us are game designers, and then we've got friends like Bobby Hill, who lives in the same area in Istanbul, and now the Anarchy that's coming out. I'm not saying that Garphill won't work with other designers, because our next game is a Syria second edition, which is the second edition of a game by Emanuele Ornella, who's an Italian designer. And the game came out in 2009, and Shem and Sam played it on BGA. Actually, Shem was looking for games with an ancient theme, because he was looking for games that could fit into this ancient anthology, and he played this old game and he went, wow, this has got something unique. Contacted Emanuele and said, hey, we'd love to publish a second edition and work with you and redesigning it and redeveloping it. And so now they're publishing the second edition with Emanuele and Sam and Shem, as well as authors on the box. So I'm not saying that we don't work with other authors, but generally, like, we don't have like a lot of room for new games in the schedule. Yeah. Obviously, if someone comes with something that's fantastic, I'm sure Shem sees something that could just do super well. But I don't think he accepts a lot of pitches unless he probably has some sort of personal connection or something like that. We do have people in the Discord, like we do go and playtest people's games on the Discord and our Garphill Games Discord, but yeah, we don't do so much as like, here's where you can pitch your game to us. I don't even think we have a section like that on our website, not like many publishers.
Okay. Jonny, you're working now, you're the lead developer for Fantasia games. Fantasia started a few years back, and they hit it big with Endless Winter, and last year with Unconscious Mind, which is localized here also in Romania, got localized. So you made two big titles. Is a re-implementation a bit, or is it? Well, I think it stopped. Is there something wrong with the internet? Hello, can you hear me?
Sorry, a little delay there, but yeah, you're talking about the third one?
Yeah, I was talking about the third one, which is Colosseum, which is a bit of a re-implementation of it's not exactly a reprint. No, it's not a straight up reprint. We've been working a bit on them with Wolfgang Kramer. So how does Fantasia stand on these? We want ideas from other people, or we do not want ideas from other people?
We tend to seek out designers who we are fans of and ask them if they have something that would fit our catalog. And we also ask if they wanted to do commission something from scratch, a creative director would want to do. So it's I don't think at any point, even though we take pitches, like at Essen, I'm in their pitch meetings and some of the other people take pitches. It's not often that we're going to take something like that, but we did take a pitch at UK Games Expo last year, and it was like a turnkey game where a couple, one was the designer and one was the artist, had a game that was as close to finish as we've ever seen a game come. It just needed some refinements and facelift. They signed that game because it was so far along and being to put into the pipeline without a lot of reimagining. So it's kind of the opposite of everything else we do, which is we want something that's just concept level so we can build it up and build it. And this was the difference where it was pretty much done. Then with something like Colosseum, we'd actually heard that the company, I think it was Z-Man Games, had the rights to Princes of Florence, and they were giving up the rights to their Reiner Knizia games and a lot of their classic Euros. So we reached out to somebody to see if we could get the rights for Princes of Florence. They said, sorry, somebody else snagged it, which turned out to be Korea Board Games at the time. And we said, well, does Wolfgang have anything else? And they say, well, he's got some Colosseum game, I guess, from 2007. And it turns out that Colosseum is one of my very favorite games. And I was like, really? Can we get that? So I begged for them to sign the game from Wolfgang and put it in their pipeline. And so it's kind of an exception that we're taking a reprint and making a deluxe edition with Mitja's artwork and Ian O'Toole graphic design, and then me doing some streamlining and developing based on almost 20 years of feedback of what people like about the original, what people didn't like about the TMG
reprint
version that came out thereafter, and some other thing. Yeah, and then some things that we wanted to do to kind of streamline a little bit. So we've done, we're going to have all the rules of the original game in there, and you can play the original as you like, or you could play the way that we're streamlining it a little bit, which is going to cut out some downtime and some things like that, make it a little bit of a shorter game, and still have all the same fun things that people expect when they play Colosseum.
Yeah. So now, talking as a developer, you because you need to develop working with designers. Is it a hard job to cut a designer's work, and how do you make it in a way that he will accept it?
I try to identify what I call like the pillars of a design, and like the core mechanism, the cool, unique thing that they thought of, whether that's thematic or maybe also try not to mess with that, and just try to support those things as much as possible. And then if there's kind of band-aidy, tertiary, fiddly extra mechanics that felt like they might have come in there to fix a problem and they didn't know how to fix a problem, where if I can suggest a way that streamlines something like that, most are happy with that sort of work, because they might have hit a brick wall and they just did their best, and having somebody come in there and do some of that work is exciting for them, hopefully. I try to usually get their approval on everything, so they feel good about those things and they can still stand behind having their name on the thing. And I go from being a very gentle developer sometimes and just doing small things and telling them, hey, fix a few things, bring it back to us, you do live, where I will gut an entire system and rebuild a system if I have to. So it really depends on the scope of the work and what the publisher needs out of it, as far as that goes. That's
You still there with us?
To redesign. Yeah. So
it just stopped for a little while. Yeah, you're there.
Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
All
sometimes
right.
you're gentle,
Yeah,
sometimes
so,
you go harder on them. It depends on how the work flows, probably. But
yeah.
in the end, what do you think? So what is the and this is a question for all of you. Did you have any bad experiences with designers regarding the way that they have reacted to some of your inputs?
It's fair to say I've had a few bad reactions.
Can you specify something?
Yeah, so I'm working on one project. I won't name the project right now, but at this point, the designer, I think, got tired of working on it because we went back and forth on so many things for so long that they got exhausted and finally just said, I don't really care what you guys do anymore. And so that was a little disappointing for us to have him kind of just tap out, and because we'd hoped to work with this designer all the way to the completion of the project, but there just came a point where it took years longer than it was supposed to take to get this to a certain point and needed a lot more extra stuff. They were continually kind of playing around like in a sandbox with the design, like one week just changing something, not necessarily like something that playtesters like, they just took out of the game because they got bored with it. And then they put something new in just because it was exciting to them, but it wasn't necessarily better. And it felt kind of misguided. And we needed them to kind of be like, we need to actually start to hit some deadlines, soft lock certain parts of this, and keep this stuff that players like, that they're responding to. And also, we've commissioned artwork for some of these things. And when this designer was asking to remove certain elements, we'd already paid for some really expensive artwork for that. And that suddenly now we're thinking, how do we repurpose, $2,000 worth of drawings, right? And that sort of thing. And it became a little problematic. So I hope when he finally sees, I will show it to him again before we print it. The final version of this game, that he's actually happy to see that a lot of his stuff is still strong. Those pillars are still in the design. A lot of the stuff that he put in was still there. If you can easily identify it. It still has his vibe as a designer. But at this point, there's probably be like no particular card that he designed versus I designed. It's probably going to be like every single card effect, the cost of this, the cost of that, the benefit of this is going to be all math and numbers that I've crunched in the end.
Okay. Sabine, did Lookout have along the way problems with designers?
I wouldn't call it particularly problems, but yes, It's a relationship, and it depends on how good your relationship is established with the designer. But of course, the editorial team has a say, and if they cut things out of your game, this might hurt a lot, and it might cause a friction or a dispute between the two of us. But in the end, you can rely on the publishing house knowing what they do, because they are responsible for the financial success of the game. You handed them over. And yes, sometimes projects get stopped, maybe shortly before publishing, because something does not fit right, or the market does change and stuff like that. But usually it's a relationship where we establish change being made and necessary. And yeah, the designer might not be happy. For instance, with Forest Shuffle, this is a game that settles, depending on your playing group, between Kennerspiel and family game. So it turned out it's a tremendously good, feel-good game. But in the original design, it had axes in it. And you could cut down one of your trees. To remove it, to gain the cards, to collect the cards back, you need to pay for other actions. And the editorial team decided that this is not fit for this game. Yes, it was a mechanism in the game, it was the original game design, but it doesn't fit to the overall feel-good feeling of the game. So we skipped the axis. There are no people in the game acting and interacting and killing deer. It's just nature. Keep it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now let's move a bit to you as design. You Zach have now you're working on 2 new games, right? How much of the original design of the original of what it was the original got cut until you are going to publish those?
A lot changed. Yeah, I think getting cut isn't necessarily the right. It's a bit different when you're presenting a game that is at a good point, you're presenting it to a publisher, and then they cut it. Obviously, being with Sam, and Sam works a lot with Shem, is that already working with Sam, by the time we've got a design that Sam's happy with, generally Shem won't have a lot to do, because Sam already knows kind of what Shem's development style is and has learned a lot about development from him. So kind of our next game, I did present an original prototype to Sam, which was a pretty early kind of concept, because I wanted it to be a co-design with him. And, you know, most of that stuff has morphed, developed, and changed. But the key idea, the key kind of like hook, should I say, of like why this game? Why should we make this game? It was kind of the standout feature that's still in the game. And that is obviously like lots of stuff around it and how it works has changed, but that key concept is still there. So
you're happy you're happy with what came out, even if you needed to add things or maybe remove some things, if you kept your eyes on the prize. I mean, what is the core thing that we want to establish with our game?
Look, one of the I think the most important things I learned in my first design, and it's a real privilege getting to work with experienced designers in a co-design for your first design, because I just your darlings, and it doesn't sound very nice, but the things that, you know, you just have that kind of emotional connection to that mechanism in your game, you need to be willing to just be like, nah, that's gone. Because if it's better for the game, you have to be willing to sacrifice those things, or not kill them, but put them on a shelf and say, look, we're going to put that on the shelf for now. It was cool idea. It's not working. Let's put it on the shelf. We might come back to it. And this is super important as a designer, because if you get too emotionally attached to things, you're not necessarily going to come out with the best product at the end. And the thing I really appreciate about Sam and Shem, who I work with, is as long as you have the same vision for a game, and I think this is super important if you're working on a co-design or if a publisher picks up your game, is that they have the same vision. Because even if you think they're wrong, they will generally come to agree with you if the thing that they do, they realize isn't actually the right solution, you know? So, like, I've had that happen to me where, you know, I think things should go in a certain direction. Sam's like, no, I think they should go in this direction. And then over time, Sam goes, actually, you know, you were right, or vice versa, because sometimes we see things before the other person, and the other person just needs to test them out and actually see, like, experience that's not right, you know? And thankfully, when the designer and the developer have that same vision and you're willing to trust in that vision, then you should come out with the right result at the end, even if along the way there might be some kind of like things that are cut which you didn't want to be cut, or, you know, they might bring them back, and it's a process. But as long as the right vision is there and everyone shares it, I think you're going to come out with the best result.
Possible. What about you, Jonny? What about you? You in your so you came. You said 2012, 13 years later. You must have some chopped games. How was it for you? And how are you seeing it now during the years? After all of these years, sorry.
I have some pretty cynical views about them. I think the team that Zach's talking about sounds really healthy and cool and like a great working situation. I think some teams and publishers have weird infighting and things going on you might not even know about as a designer, and then you realize that people are struggling to get a promotion or get moved up or get somebody fired, or something's going on, or trying to, maybe there's a 51% shareholder of a company and a 49% shareholder, and they're dangling that 1% over the other half to do some weird stuff. There's a lot of crazy stuff that goes on the inside. And I think there's also a certain amount of risk taking and gambling that some publishers will do with the Kickstarter market, because it's just there to tempt you all the time, saying like, put something big and shiny in Kickstarter. You're going to front load you enough money to fund your studio for the next while, fix everything in post. And that's unfortunately something that some publishers will do if they get themselves into a financial bind. And that's where you see some companies struggling. Like, I don't know if you've kind of watched what Elf Creek has been going on with lately. It's like they're really struggling. They had some Kickstarters and expansions they weren't fulfilling. They were trying to take out loans, trying to find partnerships. And I think ultimately they got acquired by another publisher recently, and their catalog is being acquired by that publisher. And maybe those games will come out. Maybe those Kickstarters get fulfilled. I don't actually know, but I did some work for them for a while ago, and it was an awkward situation doing development for them. The game I worked on may or may not come out. I think the rights bounce back to the designer. The developer I was working under was one of those lower shareholders that basically got moved to a position where he didn't have any say in anything anymore, became a silent partner midstream. So there's a lot of things that can happen in the inside. And I think if you can find a really healthy, cool, symbiotic team that understands the vision of something and has restraint, not just in design, but in their financial risks that they're taking in management and cash flow and those sorts of things, I think that's all really important. And it seems presumptuous, but it might be a good thing for a designer to kind of investigate a little bit, like, has there been any BGG scandals? Are the backers generally happy with this company? Do they fulfill on time? If they don't fulfill on time, was there a good reason? Was it because there was a shipping crisis or a pandemic, or a 54% tariff suddenly gets slapped on the US, like what happened 2 days ago here, which is going to change the landscape radically. So it's good to look at all those things and see how perseverant and what kind of restraint the publishers have, and do they have a cash cow game that no matter what they do, they're still going to stay in business? Because let's say they have something, I don't know, like Codenames, I'm presuming sells a lot of copies, that allows Check Game Edition to probably take some risks that other publishers probably couldn't afford to take and shoot stuff in the retail, and they take their time because they know they can. And when they do put out a game like SETI, it just knocks it out of the park suddenly. But it's not suddenly; it's smart. They're really smart company.
Yeah, you're right. They can afford one.
Yeah, I mean, that one wasn't a huge success, but it's a very good game at the same time, right? Maybe it was the box cover wasn't exciting enough, or maybe it's because economic, or maybe the art looked like it was from 2005. I don't know. But mechanically, that game was brilliant. But as far as market, I don't think it did what Arnak did or what SETI's doing right now, at least from what I've observed, right?
Yep. So Lookout managed to do 25 years. Yeah. 25 years of choosing the right games, having some Uber games, but you don't have all of the Uber games. Is there a matrix, some rules after that guide Lookout in choosing the games and the designers that they want to work with?
Well, it starts with the game. So yes, Uwe was a founding member of Lookout Games, and he's very attached to Lookout still. But not every Uwe game is a fit with our studio, and not every Uwe game Lookout Games.
Of course.
And he founded a few new publishing houses on the go, which is totally fine because that makes more Uwe games for you all. How do we choose designers? I think in any business, you establish a relationship. If the pitch is okay and you like the idea and it's a fit, you start establishing a relationship with the designer. And if this is a good relationship and your first project is fine, we might do another project. And after that, we'll see. And this is how it turned out. And if our editorial team, all gamers in the team, we're not a big company still after 25 years.
So it's run by gamers.
It's run by gamers, and this is what shows in the games we choose to develop and to publish. Not all of them are big hits, but we got a lot of awards. We published more than 100 games, so the feeling of the team, if we like a game, we know that our fan base usually likes it too. And over the years, the fan base is growing. And of course, with several branches of different kinds of games, two-player games, family games, and the expert and advanced level games, we cater to a wider variety of audience than at the beginning, which is a good thing because we don't rely on just one pillar and have the pressure to bring one Kennerspiel des Jahres year after year, because nobody can with this market constantly growing and so many new publishers pushing on the market and bringing new games. Your core business, and we are in the happy situation that we are a bunch of dedicated gamers. So if you like a game, if you like your game, we usually will publish it, and it might be doing good or being a hit, but I think our portfolio is what we can call rock solid. Or as somebody mentioned these days, there are no stinkers in our portfolio.
That's true, and I stick to my statement. There are no stinkers in your portfolio. You went on the Kickstarter route, because both Garphill and Fantasia both go on the Kickstarter route. You go to the other, so the classical distribution.
We have a classical distribution network
system.
And under the Asmodee umbrella, things are from the business side a tad easier. We still have to pitch within the group. So if our games don't fit the markets of our distribution partners, they won't participate on a print run. But yes, we tried the Kickstarter route for one particular project, mainly because, there's so many games performing tremendously well on Kickstarter, brilliant games. And we had this cool idea of an expansion for Grand Austria Hotel, which was out of print for a few years. So this was the perfect starting point to try ourselves on a Kickstarter. And
Yeah.
this
Uh,
around the pandemic and everything else, but it was a success.
Why? So I'm choosing to go a bit on this route because when you start designing a thing, a game, when you have an idea, should you think, well, does this game do I go as far as I can and go to a publisher that will kickstart it, or do I want retail, stable retail distribution? How do you guys see this as designers? Zach,
You want to go
let's start with
first?
you. Zach?
Well, I mean, both are good. It depends. It depends. Just you want the game to be successful, right? And in either format, it can be successful. In either format, it can flop. So, I think in our case, as Garphill Games, we use Kickstarter out of necessity. We're a publisher in New Zealand, so we just don't have the ability to do things the same as a publisher who's in Europe or in the States. And we tried some time ago. Shem tried with Raiders of Scythia to Raiders of Scythia and Hadrian's Wall to put the games out via pre-order and just trying to do retail, and it just did not pull in the revenue, the same revenue as Kickstarter, and we're a bit different to other companies because our Kickstarters aren't super flashy, and we just kind of sell the game and we give free extras to people who back them. But if we didn't put games on Kickstarter, I wouldn't be employed at Garphill. Sam probably wouldn't be employed at Garphill. Like, we just wouldn't be able to do our jobs. Basically, there wouldn't be the money there to keep publishing games. So for us, Kickstarter is really a lifesaver and super important. And we've tried going other routes, but it's the way.
Jonny?
Yeah, that's the same boat for the publishers I work with. They've all leaned on Kickstarter for the most part to do their stuff, and the few games I've done that have been direct to retail did not have a revenue stream as the other ones, and it was a harder. But I tend to have been signed with newer startup companies like that. I did pitch to Lookout in 2017 or something like that to the game that eventually turned into Coloma. But no, I haven't really worked with a publisher that's had 10, 20 years in standing and has the whole distribution thing going on and actually had something go through that. So it's mostly fallen into the Kickstarter camp, and like I said, the few times it hasn't, it's a little scary or different. Like one of the companies I pitched to and had published was Board and Dice, and they decided to make the game a Gen Con retail release and not one of their Kickstarter games, right? And I think due to some of the changes that was going on in that company at the time, because they were doing a merger with NSCAN, it just didn't really get much traction. It kind of fell between the cracks, literally. And the other game that suffered kind of similar fate was that Trismegistus. It's interesting that just right now they're going to take that game that was also fell through the cracks, bring it back with new artwork, put it on Kickstarter, and I have a feeling it's going to be much, much more successful than that original print run that they did. They haven't contacted me about my game, so I don't think they're going to resurrect that one. I think that one's dead. But and mostly everything I've worked on has been Kickstarter, and a lot of times the funding is for me to do anything comes from Kickstarter too.
I see. Well, I think we can slowly end this meeting here. I would like to close by thanking and taking out of your time. It's Saturday night there in New Zealand, and I don't know what is there in in Reno. But
Saturday morning early.
Yeah, Saturday morning early. It's 1 o'clock in the morning, and I want to thank you very much for more than 1 o'clock, right?
It's like 2:30 a.m. It's late here.
Yeah, I want to thank you very much for taking the time to come to speak to our audience here. Before I end it, I want to know if some of the audience here have 1 or 2 questions for our guests, be it online or present.
I can speak louder. It's okay.
Does anybody know how to beatbox? He's got a mic.
Okay, thank you. Okay. I was curious because you both are head of marketing. It's like how percentage-wise you also did a Kickstarter. How much marketing percentage-wise is in the Kickstarter? Like 20% of how much you raise? Because I've seen some numbers online, and I was curious if you have any numbers on that.
So, how much of the budget goes into marketing for a Kickstarter?
Well, we don't probably put as much as other companies do. So the thing is, we're blessed to Shem has built up a following over the years, and so we have people who look out for our Kickstarters. So we do put a bit of money into marketing and ads, and we always run ads through BGG, but it wouldn't even be 10%. Like, I've heard people say it should be 10 or 20%, but yeah, I guess, okay, you got to consider paying people to do previews of the games and playthroughs. So that's, if you consider that, but I think we'd still be under 10%. So, like, I've heard those numbers online as well. Like, it should be 10%, it should be 20%, but I think we'd be under 10. I don't even know if we got up to 5 even. So I don't know. I'd have to check with Shem because I handle some of the marketing, but still some of the stuff is contact and with reviewers and content creators that he's still handling that. So I don't have the full picture yet, but yeah.
Yeah, same thing with our companies. Is we tend to have some good viral, natural, organic followings. We have Facebook groups and things like that our team just kind of runs. We have people that help out with marketing stuff. We have good relationships with content creators. Some of them do some stuff for free or for promo copy of the game. Sometimes we do some paid playthroughs. We have paid Paul Grogan to do like a extensive tutorial for the game that's something, but it's nowhere near some of the numbers that I've heard. I recently heard about a campaign that the publisher forked out some $200,000 in marketing recently to make their game. Their game did very, very well, but that's a risk that none of the publishers I work with has $200,000 sitting around to put into marketing as a gamble that you're going to make $200,000 back plus some. That would bankrupt some of the people I work with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can confirm. So you might have to invest slightly a bit more to present a Kickstarter properly, because it doesn't only have to be shiny, it has to be a proper video. And if you're working with an established publisher who has done these things before, he knows the ropes. So people know who will do a proper video, people know which content creators might be fit for this product. And they are relying on a fan base, already expecting good work from this publisher. So it's way easier than if you're going solo and launching a Kickstarter on yourself. And I wouldn't recommend doing a Kickstarter on your own. You will need a network because it's a lot of emails to answer. Yeah.
I can see both of your heads at the same time.
A lot.
Okay, other questions there on because, well, you have them now here. You own it. I think you should have questions, but yeah. Well, I had mine. So, guys, I want to thank you a lot for doing this. Hopefully we see, I don't know, this year we'll see each other in Essen. drink a beer. I'll have a beer for you, Jonny, for doing this so late. And well, maybe in the next years, if you come back to Europe, Zach, who knows? Thank you a lot.
May do. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks everybody. It's nice talking to you guys.
Thank you, Sabine, for staying. Thank you, Sabine, for being with us. Thank to the few people who stayed with us during our talk. So I will end this one here. Thank you very much to everyone who watched. Have a nice day here at the festival, and hopefully see you on our next workshops. Thank you.
Cheers.